In this lecture on martensitic transformations, we deal with the morphological characteristics, the phenomenology, the thermodynamics, the nucleation and growth details of martensite formation. The characteristics of martensitic transformation. Martensitic transformations are discontinuous transformations that are diffusionless and displacive and occur by the forward glacial motion of the interface between the growing martensite and its parent phase, that is usually called as austenite. So these transformations can occur in pure metals and alloy phases, in intermetallics, and in a large number of alloy systems. The martensite transformation is diffusionless, so it does not involve either long range or short range diffusion of atoms. And here the atomic motion occurs by the displacement of interface in an elastic fashion so that the parent phase is consumed and the product phase, that is martensite, enhances its volume. And this enhancement occurs by the forward glacial motion of the interface between the growing martensite and the parent phase. So glacial interfaces are those which can move with high velocity, and compared to glacial interface, we have got non-glacial interfaces which can be either coherent or incoherent or semi-coherent. So these are discontinuous transformations. That means they involve what is known as nucleation and growth, but no diffusion is involved. They are displacive in the sense that they are military-like transformation, just like a troop of army personnel moves in a concentrated fashion. Here atoms also move from one side of the interface to the other side. They switch by coordinated atomic movements. So consequently this is called as the displacive transformation. So thus the martensite transformations have been defined as a subset of diffusionless, displacive, solid-state transformations in which the strain energy arising from the shear dominated lattice distortion controls the kinetics and a product morphology during the transformation. So there is what is known as shear, which we'll deal with subsequently in this lecture. What is shear associated with the transformation? So these martensite transformations are first order. So consequently they exhibit discontinuities in the Gibbs free energy itself. The discontinuous in the first order derivatives of the Gibbs free energy. They are heterogeneous in nature. That means, in the sense the nucleation of a product phase is required, and that occurs at some location, and after this nucleation it grows. So it is the homogeneous transformation is one where everywhere the phase change occurs by compositional fluctuations, local compositional fluctuations. Here the fluctuations, the changes in the composition is quite large. So as a consequence we call it as heterogeneous transformation. But then to understand the characteristics of the martensitic transformation, we can consider the similarities between the mechanical twinning and martensite transformation. So the primary difference between the mechanical twinning and martensite transformation is that martensite has a crystal structure different from its parent phase. Mechanical twinning, in contrast, preserves the crystal structure of parent asteroid phase. So the twin as well as its parent from which it has separated out, both of them will have the same crystal structure in mechanical twinning. In contrast, the crystal structure of the product is different in the case of martensite transformation from the parent phase. So here we outline the commonalities and the differences between martensite transformation and mechanical twinning. Martensite transformation is a displacive process. So there are atoms are displaced in a coherent fashion. They occur by a local transfer of the atoms across an advancing interface by a highly organized military shuffling of the atoms across the interface at conservatively moving dislocations. So what is a conservation motion of dislocation? So which is a motion which doesn't involve what is known as dislocation climb. So in this respect, mechanical twinning is exactly also has got this characteristic. Again, so the mechanical twinning is also a displacive process. It occurs by the local transfer of atoms across an advancing interface by a highly organized military shuffling of the atoms across the interface at conservatively moving dislocations. In both martensite transformation and mechanical twinning, a macroscopic shape change of the specimen is induced. So both in martensite transformation as well as mechanical twinning, the process is conservative. No long range diffusion is involved. So the martensite and parent phase must therefore be of the same chemical composition. No compositional variation is involved during as a consequence of martensite transformation. This is exactly true also in the case of mechanical twinning. Thermal activation is of little importance in the case of martensite transformation, and the martensitic interfaces can often advance at very high speeds at relatively low temperatures. So martensite transformation can take place even at temperatures as low as 4 degrees Kelvin. So this is so twinning is also exactly has got similar characteristics. Martensite and its parent phase are different phases possessing different crystal structures and densities. In contrast, twin and its parent are of the same phase and differ only in their crystal orientation. In twinning, there is no volume change, and the shape change or deformation consists of a shear parallel to the twin plane. Deformation produced in twinning is classified as invariant plane strain, since the twin plane is neither distorted nor rotated and is therefore an invariant plane. So here this diagram brings down the basic difference between the twinning and the martensite. So here this is the imagine that you have got originally a parent crystal which is like this, which is a rectangular cross section as shown. So when it shears or twins with respect to a particular interface plane between these two, so the shear direction lies parallel to the plane which separates them. So with respect to this particular plane, the parent and the twin, they are in a specific crystallographic orientation. Most commonly this can be a mirror image. The twin is a mirror image of the parent crystal. So what is important here is the displacements of the atoms which are located above the twin plane as the twinning is formed is their magnitude is related to how far they are away from the twin plane vertically. So consequently, this kind of deformation is called as a simple shear. So when it comes to what happens in the case of martensite formation from the parent crystal, again you have got a parent crystal which is a rectangle block, and so you have got a parent here, post deformation also. So that is now confined to only this. The top part of the crystal is now converted into the martensite. So nature of the deformation is such that there is a relative displacement parallel to the interface between the parent astenite crystal and martensite, and this plane is called as a habit plane. So the directions and the magnitudes of the vectors in this habit plane remain unchanged as a consequence of the phase transformation. That is how we define the habit plane. If you look at the displacements, not only you have got displacement parallel to the habit plane, but there is also a vertical component or component which is normal displacement component or shear component, dilatational component which is perpendicular to the habit plane. So consequently, there is what is known as the change in the volume of the crystal. So the martensite and the parent crystals, they do not have the same specific volume. Whereas in the case of twinning here, the parent and twin which are formed from the parent, both of them have got same specific volume, so consequently their densities are also same. But here when a martensite is formed, the specific volume of martensite is different from the specific volume of parent. Habit plane of martensite is a plane in the astenite which undergoes no net macroscopic distortion. Okay. By net distortion we mean when averaged over large number of such crystals, the distortion is zero. Habit plane is a plane which is common to both the austenitic and martensite, in which all directions and their angular separations in the plane are unchanged during the transformation. Shape change produced by martensite transformation does not rotate the habit plane. Suppose if you have got an interface plane which you have to start with, so whatever occurs as a consequence, whatever shape change occurs as a consequence of martensite formation doesn't rotate the interface plane between the parent austenite and martensite. This gives the morphological description of different kinds of the martensites that can form in iron alloys. One of the characteristics of martensitic transformation is this transformation takes place at rapid cooling rates and states. So the several hundred degrees of undercooling is required, and this is obtained by rapid quenching. So because the martensite transformation requires a large driving force in the form of differences in the chemical free energy of original parent austenite and the martensite. So consequently the transformation takes place only if non-martensitic transformations, they do not take place. So if they intervene, it is possible that you have a considerable amount of microstructure by volume or contains non-martensitic phases. So consequently, because the martensite transformation requires a large driving force, there is a typical temperature which is called as MS temperature, martensite start temperature, which is the maximum temperature at which the martensite is formed by rapid cooling from the austenite. Phase failure. Okay, so we have got different kinds of martensitic morphologies. So you have got what is known as the lath type of martensite, then you have got a butterfly type of martensite, you have got more predominantly occurring lenticular type of martensite, and then you have got thin plate martensite, and then you have got epsilon type of martensite, this one. Okay, so this is how the formation temperature of martensite is plotted here. So this is for a iron carbon alloy. So consequently, so in a high temperature range, lath type of martensite predominates, and in this temperature range it is butterfly, and still lower it is the cooling is done to a lower temperature, and if the alloy has got substantially lower MS temperature, so it is possible that you end up having a lenticular type of martensite formed. And the epsilon type of martensite is formed by very rapid cooling to very low temperatures of 100 degrees or lower. So this plot shows that lath type of martensites are usually noticed between 0 to approximately 0.8 to 0.9% carbon by mass. So butterfly martensite is formed right across up to a carbon concentration of 1.5% in steels. So the lenticular and thin plates, they can occur over almost a very large percentage of carbon concentrations in these steels. So 2% is the maximum amount of carbon that can go into austenite. So consequently you have, so it is possible that thin plate morphology is possible throughout this carbon percentage range. Martensite in steels is often plate-like with a well-defined habit plane. So the habit plane is the plane defined by the plate itself. Laths are another relatively common morphology. Martensite laths are ruler-shaped particles that have a habit plane as well as a specific crystallographic long direction. So you have got two important crystallographic aspects. You have got habit plane as well as a long crystallographic direction, along which you have got elongated lath. On rare occasions, rod-like or multifaceted lath-shaped particles may also form. The next crystallographic feature that is characteristic of a martensitic transformation is the presence of an internal substructure within the martensite plates. So for the formation of a martensite, the interface between the martensite and austenite must be extremely mobile. Martensite plates form instantaneously during rapid quenching, and the austenite and martensite interface has been reported to move at speeds approaching the speed of sound in the metal. So the growth velocities of martensite crystals has been estimated as something like near 1 kilometer per second. So the growth is very fast. So the extent of martensite transformation depends upon the number of nuclei which are formed in the original parent phase. So the nuclei form usually in a heterogeneous fashion. So again, we have the microstructure, optical micrographs of various types of martensite in ferrule layers are depicted here. This shows a lath type of alpha prime. Alpha prime is it designates the martensite, and this is what is known as a butterfly type of martensite. And in the brackets the alloy compositions, the steel alloy compositions in which it occurs or noticed is given. And then you have got gamma plate type of martensite here. So the plate is essentially 2 to 5 plane. And then you have got this lenticular alpha prime. So you have got, so one feature which can be readily seen that the martensite crystals, so suppose I have got, this is the first set of martensite crystals which are formed. The next set of martensite crystals which are lenticulars in geometry, they are bound between these two previously formed lenticular crystals of previous generation. So you can have a typical lenticular arrangement here. So this is what is shown as a thin plate martensite, occurs in iron, nickel and carbon alloys. And this is epsilon martensite, which is manifest in many of the shape memory alloys. When it comes to the internal substructure of martensite, so you can see that here, this is the martensite plate, and this is austenite, and this is another austenite. So in the austenite, this plate is formed. So in the austenite crystal, this is formed. So you have got one glycyl interface and another glycyl interface, and the substructure here is that of what is known as the midrib here. So this is plane of the midrib, which is consists of a set of very fine twins. So they are arranged in such a fashion that it gives a characteristic appearance. So here A is austenite, and again you have got, this is the, here you have got, essentially you have got midrib is a domain is where the twinning has occurred extensively. That means almost entire structure, entire parent phase has exhibited twinning. And the austenite has converted into martensite also. Then you have got twinned region, where you have got partial twinning occurs, and then you have got between this twin and that twin you have got what is known as the parent crystal. And removed from the midrib, these are the regions in the martensite plate where twinning is not noticed. So essentially you have got untwinned region there. So this is martensite here, this is austenite there, and then you can see the existence of twins here. So this table gives the morphology, substructure, habit plane and orientation relationship of 5 types of alpha prime martensite in ferrous alloys. The first one is what we call this, we have lath type of morphology, and the substructure of these laths consists of dislocations. The habit plane exhibited by lath morphology is 111 of austenite or 557 of austenite, and the orientation relationship is that of Kudryavov and Sachs. We will talk about this orientation relationship in some detail subsequently. And the martensite transformation temperature, starting temperature of martensite transformation MS is relatively high for lath martensite. This we also seen already in the earlier slide. And then comes what is known as butterfly type of martensite morphology, and the substructure here in these butterfly martensite crystals consist of dislocations plus twins. So the habit plane in this case is 225 of austenite, and again the orientation relationship is that of Kudryavov and Sachs. The MS temperature is relatively low compared with that of lath. And then you have got 225 type of plate. So again here the substructure consists of dislocations and twins, So the habit plane again happens to be 2 to 5, and the orientation relationship is that of Kudjmo and Sachs. MS temperature is lower than the lath or butterfly type of martensite. Then you have got lenticular morphology, which is quite common. So the internal microstructure or substructure of the lenticular martensitic plates consist of dislocations plus twins and sometimes even metals. The habit plane is 2 to 5 of astenate or 3, 10, 1, 5 of astenate. So the orientation relationship in this case is described as Nishiyama and Wasserman or Greninger and Traiano. Then the last one is what is known as thin plate martensite. Here the substructure consists of twins, and habit plane is 3, 10, 15 of astenite. So the MS temperature of occurrence of this thin plate martensite is considerably lower, and here the orientation relationship is Greninger and Traiano interface. The crystallographic characteristics of martensite in steels are its morphology, that is the geometric shape, which we have already covered, and the orientation relationship between the matrix and the product martensite phases. This we also have indicated. The internal substructure of the martensite itself and the nature of the interface. So suppose if I take a polished surface of original astenite crystal and allow it to undergo transformation so that the martensite is produced to form a lenticular morphology, then what you see is tilts are manifest in the pre-polished surface and changes in direction of the initially straight surface scratch. Yes. So a fiducial scratch is formed prior to a linear line scratch is formed prior to martensite transformation. So there will be change in the direction of this fiducial crack on the surface of the parent crystal. So this is how it happens. The polished and etched cross section approximately normal to the pre-polished surface. That was the pre-polished surface, the top one, and shows the lenticular martensite plate in section. So this is how you have cut it along this particular plane, and this is how half of the lenticular crystal of martensite is geometry shown here. So there is what is known as a lattice invariant shear L in the form of slip and twinning. So this is where the slip and twinning occurs so as to reduce so as to produce what is known as the invariant plane strain, or to retain the habit plane unchanged, unrotated. So there is a component of the tilt. So there is a component of a tilt rotation, and so consequently a straight line which was like this and now has tilted by an angle, something like this. So, to explain the presence of invariant undistorted plane interface between the parent crystal and the martensite. So, the classical theory of crystallography of martensite transformation assumes that there is what is known as a Bain lattice transformation. So the Bain transformation or Bain distortion involves the absolute minimum of atomic moments in generating the BCC from SCC astenate. Bain transformation does not fulfill the requirement of bringing about a transformation with an undistorted plane. So consequently, it gives how the BCC structure, which is common in steels, the BCT structure common in steels, can be produced from the original astenate, which has got a FCC crystal structure. So this the Bain correspondence for martensite in steels is explained here. In this figure, this is one unit cell of FCC. So this is the direction 100, and you have got another unit cell which is also has got 100 direction. Both these are exactly positioned such that their directions are mutually parallel. So the 001 of F of this unit cell is same as, so same corresponding direction in this unit cell. And here there are four. So you have got FCC, basically you have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have got the iron atoms are occupying the corners of the unit cell as well as the face centers. So consequently, it is a FCC structure. But in steels, carbon is dissolved in iron. So consequently, the interstitial positions are these at the mid points of the edges of the unit cell. So there are 12 edges. So consequently, you have got 12 midpoints. So these are the positions where you have got the carbon atoms present to form what is known as an interstitial solid solution. So when these two unit cells are put together, you can conceive this FCC arrangement to be same as if the unit cell were chosen to be a BCT unit cell. So consequently, this entire thing is a unit cell has got is formed by putting these two adjacent to each other to form a too high multiple unit cell. So consequently, if same thing, so even if you, instead of choosing this as the representative lattice cell, we can instead conceive the FCC to be formed by the repetition of this unit, which is this primitive cell here, and of course there is a centered cell here. So consequently here this distance is A, but this distance and this distance is A by root 2. So consequently this length divided by this length is equal to 1.414. So instead of considering the FCC as if made by a repetition of a unit cell, FCC unit cell, we can conceive the FCC structure generated by repetition of a BCT unit cell, where C by A ratio is equal to 1.414. So this, as a consequence, this representation, you can conceive it as if it is being undergoes a change in shape. So consequently there is a change in the geometry of the unit cell. So consequently new phase is formed. So this the displacements which are explained, or which are supposed to be occurring, this has been put forth by Bain as if there is a relaxation of lattice along the basal directions and a contraction along the vertical 001 direction of the face-centered cell. So consequently, Bain distortion is the expansion along two basal directions and shrinkage of the unit cell along the third direction, third normal direction. So when if this unit cell tries to shrink and then reduce it to move towards a BCC arrangement, so this is you have got this is a BCT unit cell. So if you can decrease this length and increase this lattice parameter, then you are moving towards a BCC structure. But then you have got carbon atoms which are situated at the centers of this cell edges. So 4 of them, and if the presence of carbon prevents the contraction of the unit cell, then you end up having a BCT structure with a C by A ratio which is not equal to 1.414, which corresponds to FCC, but less than 1.414. So consequently you have got this is the direction here. So I have got 100 for the BCC, and this is 010 of the BCC or BCT, and this is 001 of BCC or BCT unit cell. So this is corresponds to what is known as the martensite. So this schematic diagram, which was proposed by Bain, indicates how the BCT or BCC cell can be produced from original FCC astenate. So the extent to which the contraction occurs is along the C-axis depends on the interstitial, octahedral interstitial carbon atoms. If the concentration is more, then the of a carbon in the alloy is more, then the C by A ratio of the martensite will be greater. So again, BCT structure of austenite cell in C can be converted to a BCC and BCT martensite B here unit cell via contraction approaching 25% along 0, 0, 1 direction, and this becomes 0, 0, 1 of the martensite, together with the expansion of around 13% along the directions 1 bar 1 0 of ferrite and 1 1 0 of ferrite, which will become 1 0 0 in the and 0 1 0 in the martensite respectively. So the Bain distortion or gives us the idea about how the BC as FCC structure can be converted into the martensite. So it brings us the correct crystal structure change. It describes correctly how the crystal structure change occurs. But what is another factor, crystallographic factor, which has been noticed is the habit plane is invariant. An invariant plane is one in which any vector lying in it does not change in magnitude or direction as a consequence of deformation. Invariant lattice planes do not exist in the lattice deformation as postulated by Bain, but this has been noticed in a practical situation. So the habit plane remains unchanged. So no length in the habit plane changes, nor their angular separation is changed as a consequence of the martensite transformation. So to arrive at such a state where there exists what is known as a lattice invariant deformation, two additional operations are required. The plane that is undistorted can be produced if the parent phase is subjected to two operations. The lattice transformation, which changes the crystal structure, and maybe it has a model for that is put forth by Bain, and a shear deformation that does not change the crystal structure and is therefore termed as lattice invariant deformation. This lattice invariant deformation can be accomplished by shearing the crystal by passing perfect dislocations through it. So it can be produced by dislocation, slip, or it can also be produced by what is known as pinning. Even though the Bain distortion, Bain strain, as well as lattice invariant deformation put together produce an undistorted plane. This undistorted plane is not invariant plane, since the undistorted plane they produce is generally rotated away from its inclination in the original parent phase. However, to account for that, the undistorted plane can then be brought back into its original inclination by a final rigid body rotation. So there are three elements in describing the crystallography of martensite transformation. The first one is Bain distortion, second one is lattice invariant deformation, and the third one is rigid body rotation. Schematically, here what you have got here is the habit plane is here, austenite is originally here. So you have got here a rectangular block of austenite which is lying on top of the habit plane. And as a consequence of deformation, it is changing into habit plane remains unchanged, undistorted. And but what happens is the displacement or strain components are you have got a strain component which occurs parallel to the habit plane, and also you have got a tensile component which occurs perpendicular to the habit plane. So it is so consequently you have got the total strain comprises of a shear gamma and a tensile strain. So the tensile strain here is same as the percentage change or the change in the specific volume of the unit cell. Habit planes are in general irrational. They do not have a simple set of Miller indices to represent them. So they cannot strictly be represented by simple single digit Miller indices. So that is what meant by irrational habit plane. So habit plane is one which is remains undistorted, unrotated. So the orientation relationships. The orientation relationship is the relationship between the planes and directions in one phase, such as Ashtay matrix F, with corresponding planes and directions in the other phase, that is the martensite B. The Kojima and Sachs, they have proposed that one plane of ferrite is parallel to 101 plane of martensite, and 1/10 direction of FCC Ashtay is parallel to 1/1 direction of martensite, and the direction 1/1 of ferrite, of a face-centered Ashtay is 5.26 degrees from direction 10/1 of the martensite. This is what is known as Kojima and Sachs orientation relationship. The other relationships which have been proposed and which are specifically identified in the literature are the Nishiyama and Wasserman relationship and Greninger and Triano relationships. These are given here. So when you say one particular direction is 5.26 degrees from, say, this particular direction of the martensite, it means the indices of the orientation relationships happens to be very irrational. So similarly you have got the Greninger and Triano. So one of the features of the martensite formation is the habit planes are irrational. They have got the Miller indices, the simplest Miller indices have large integer values to represent them. Now, let us talk about the driving force for martensite transformation. The driving force for a martensite transformation usually arises from the decrease in the bulk free energy change per unit volume which occurs in the transformation. This particular component is also called as the chemical free energy. So, difference. The martensite transformation is associated with a change in specimen shape and an additional energy consideration should be made about the energy per unit volume of shape change. The martensite shape change can be factored into an invariant plane strain shear and a dilation normal to the invariant plane. So we have already shown this schematic in a schematic diagram. So there are two strain energy contributions. The first one is due to shear and equal to sigma s, where sigma s is multiplied by ES. So sigma s is the resolved shear stress along the invariant plane in the direction of shear, and ES is the magnitude of the shear. So this is by virtue of the shear, and then there is a change in the volume due to a dilation of the unit cell, and this the energy component, free energy component, is given by sigma Nn multiplied by Enn here, where sigma Nn is the magnitude of shear stress normal to the invariant plane, and Enn is the normal dilation. The net change of the free energy per unit volume delta Gt is delta G for a transformation is equal to minus delta GV, that is volumetric free energy, plus, so they always, because you have undercooled, so there is always a negative driving force to affect the transformation, but this is opposed by the energy required in the form of strain which is introduced as a consequence of martensite formation. And so there are two terms, one which is associated with the dilation, that is sigma Nn into Enn, plus, and then the energy, free energy associated with shear strains, so that is sigma S into ES. Martensite transformations are usually induced by cooling the parent phase below the point where net free energy change turns negative. So because there are positive contributions, you need to substantially undercool the austenite so that the delta GV dominates over the other terms. So consequently overall free energy change delta GT turns out to be negative. Martensite then nucleates and grows in a conservative glissile fashion. Conservative means which does not involve the dislocation climb. And this the conservative glissile motion which gives rise to growth of martensite occurs under the driving force given by the first term on the right hand side of above equation, that is the chemical free energy difference or volumetric free energy. In some cases, this growth can be very rapid, approaching the speed of sound. Martensite formation can also be induced by applied stress, as might be expected from the second and third terms. So the nucleation of a martensite occurs in a heterogeneous fashion. So the conclusive evidence for heterogeneous nucleation was from carefully conducted experiments wherein small single crystal spheres of iron nickel of a size ranging from submicron to a fraction of millimeter were cooled to various temperatures below MS temperature and then studied metallographically. The outcome of these experiments were not all particles transformed even if cooled down to 4 degrees Kelvin, so which is nearly 300 degrees below MS temperature of the bulk material. So this fact that there is only the martensite has a nucleator only and some particles indicates that the nucleation is not homogeneous. The average number of nuclei was of that of 10 to the power of 4 per mm cube. This is far less than what is to be expected for purely homogeneous nucleation. So again this enhances the argument that the martensite nucleates heterogeneously. The average number of nuclei formed is largely independent of grain size. So this is true whether the particles are a single crystal or a polycrystalline. The surface does not appear to be a preferred site for nucleation. It is possible that the strain field of a dislocation can in certain cases provides favorable interaction with the strain fields of martensite nucleus, such that one of the components of Bain strain is eliminated. Then growth of martensite and substructure. Once the nucleation barrier is overcome, the chemical volume free energy term becomes dominating and the martensite nuclei go very fast. They grow very fast until they hit a barrier such as another plate or a high angle grain boundary. So consequently the plates do not cross the grain boundaries, or if there is already a plate is formed, it ends at the already formed plate. So very thin plates with large aspect ratios, A by C ratio are formed. Then they thicken afterwards. High carbon martensites often contain a central midrib, which is a collection of fine twins. The outer regions of a plate consist of fairly regular arrangement of dislocations. In low carbon lathe martensites, high dislocation densities exist in cellular networks and contain knot twins. So in high carbon martensites of 259 habit plane type, only twins are observed. This is the schematic of steps in martensite formation. So pictured in 2 dimensions. So here, suppose I have got a parent crystal of austenite and I have got A, B and A prime, B prime. These are the 2 crystallographic plates, and there is a matter or FCC of a FCC structure between these 2 lines. So now imagine that the matter of FCC lying between the lines AB and A prime B prime is detached from this crystal, is culled out and then allowed to undergo a 2-dimensional transformation of parent phase to martensite phase. So as a consequence there is a volumetric change as well as dilatation. So consequently, this will end up having a different set of lattice parameters. So martensite has got different set of lattice parameters and also crystal structure. So this is how, suppose this is so, and we have transformed this culled out portion. So what is shown is a portion of the culled out portion here undergoing transformation by Bain distortion, so that you end up having a lattice of martensite. So this specific volume of this is different from the specific volume of this. Now then imagine that this is somehow distorted now by invariant plane strain, so that it takes a exterior geometry like this. Okay, so consequently there is a relative displacement, shear is occurring. Shear is occurring, and then so you have got brain distortion here, and then you have got lattice invariant deformation, yes, and then subsequently there is a rigid body rotation to bring these two crystals into a neighboring position, so that so there is an interface is created between them. Finally, rotate the martensite by R as shown in figure D to produce an invariant line along AB. The interface is shown in the unrelaxed state. So this is how the martensite forms and grows. And we also gave you a picture of how crystallographic idea of a description of the martensite transformation. The importance of martensite transformation is that in steels the martensite is hard, and depending upon the carbon percentage. And the MS temperature, martensite start temperature, is a function of carbon and decreases with increasing carbon percentage. And the critical cooling rate, which is required to produce only martensite but not other non-martensite products, decreases with the increasing alloying elements, boron, carbon, having substantial influence on the critical cooling rate. And all substitutional alloying elements excepting aluminum and cobalt, they decrease the critical cooling rate. So consequently the martensite transformation can be facilitated by alloying. Martensite produced is a metastable structure, so its composition is the same as that of the original parent austenite. So no compositional fluctuations, changes during or as a consequence of transformation are involved. So no diffusion either of substitutional atoms, solute atoms, or interstitial solute atoms. So the interface moves as if a elastic displacement of the interface sweeps through the parent crystal to produce the required displacements of the atoms in a coordinated fashion to produce the product phase. Martensites in non-ferrous systems need not be very hard, and some of the martensite they can be elastically recoverable. That means the martensitic transfer the